What's up, guys? We're back with another Mezco review, taking a look at something that's a little bit older, but has no less been on my radar. We are taking a look today at the Mezco 112 Collective Planet of the Apes, Dr. ZAIUS. And we know that more Planet of the Apes stuff is coming, so my interest in this figure sort of ratcheted up a bit when they revealed some other figures not too long ago. This guy comes in sort of the standard larger format style box for the 112 Collective, so not the smaller Rumble Society stuff and not any of the tins that we see them do from time to time. This is just sort of the standard box with the slipcover. So we've got a shot of the Statue of Liberty and, you know, Charlton Heston down there with the Planet of the Apes logo on the front. And then the side panels just have the nameplates, and then the back of the box is where all the action is, because we've got a full view of Dr. ZAIUS. You've got the tremendous array of accessories he comes with, and then a bunch of product shots just showcasing how he can move and how he can utilize some of that stuff. So let's do it. Let's pull him out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, the Mezco 112 Collective Planet of the Apes, Dr. ZAIUS. And before we get started, I do need to mention that this guy was provided for review by the folks over at Zavvi US. So if you haven't checked out Zavvi, I'm going to put a link down below. They are definitely coming up in the action figure and collectible game. Pretty much anything you can find anywhere else, you can also get at Zavvi. And they have provided my subscribers a 10% off code, TOYBRO10. I'll put it down in the comments or in the description below. Off any in-stock order that you make, you can get 10% off. So why not? So let's get started, see what this guy can do, see how he moves around. Of course, this is a Mezco figure. This is a fully closed figure, but this guy is incredibly surprising when it comes to articulation. For a older, advanced ape man, he is surprisingly spry, if that makes any sense. He's based on, in many ways, the Gomez body, but he, of course, has new parts that are unique to him. There's actually monkey arms or ape arms underneath this gilded robe that he wears. So there's some interesting stuff here. They went way more advanced on this figure than I think they really needed to for someone who really doesn't need to be dynamic. I don't expect a lot of people are going to have ZAIUS in like a fighting pose or in any kind of action scene for the most part. This guy's going to stand looking, you know, just cool on your shelf, but he can move pretty well. There are a few drawbacks because of how they have kitted him out, though. So you've got a head that can look up. He can look down really good. You've got really solid tilt side to side and then full rotation. Arms go out at the shoulder surprisingly well. For this kind of jacket that he's got on, because he actually has two coats. He's got like an undercoat, the brown here, and then he's got the gold robes. But there's actually even more underneath there to give him kind of like his rotund look. He's got like a fat suit on almost. So there's three different layers on this guy, and yet he's still able to move pretty well. Arms go backwards all the way. They're not going to fully rotate, of course, because he's wearing a jacket, but he can move them forward, you know, further than 90 degrees. So that's really nice. There is a bicep swivel in there. It's not all that usable, but it's there. There are double jointed elbows. I mean, look at that range. That's crazy. Even for the jacket, it works really nicely. And then you can see some of that hair coming through on those arms, but you've got ball hinges there, so hinge up and down and then rotate. As far as the torso goes, you can twist in here, and then you can send him backwards and forwards and tilt side to side, but the suit kind of locks him in place. I mean, again, he's not a dynamic character, so it's not the biggest deal that some of that articulation is essentially lost. It's there, but it's kind of minimal at the same time, so you can kind of twist him back and forth. It helps when you get to put him in walking poses and stuff like that. And then you can tilt him over to the side a little bit, backwards and forward. So he does have some movement. It's just kind of mitigated by that jacket. Legs are probably where he's the most restricted, but they can still go out a little bit, not too bad. And they kick forward pretty much all the way also. And they also kick backwards a little bit. There is a thigh cut up there, or a thigh swivel. You've got double jointed knees, and they go all the way back. And then we've got kind of like the ball peg ankles down here. So he goes backwards, forwards a little bit, and then surprising amount of rocker. He can't rotate all the way around because he's got some really snazzy stirrup pants going on. So they're kind of locked in there. But this guy is, I mean, way more articulated than I ever expected him to be. I expected a lot in general because it's a Mezco figure, but at the same time, there's a lot of reasons why they didn't have to go all out like this. And yet he is, in many ways, over-articulated for what this kind of character needs. So right out of the box, I mean, this thing is moving so much better than I expected and has a lot of nice display potential just because they gave him all this articulation that is so hidden here. And the same goes for aesthetics here, but in this instance, it really comes down to, at least for me, the quality of the soft goods here. And it's a Mezco figure, so we know that they are kind of, a cut above most folks when it comes to soft goods. But it definitely shows on this figure because he has a lot of different finishes. I mean, to start with, you've got this really kind of gaudy, almost metallic gold jumpsuit that he wears with the faux leather straps that run down the side with like the embossed design and patterning all over them. And then you've got underneath that, you've got the brown kind of underrobes, which also have their own design on them. There's even like little leather pads on the inside there. And this thing fits him so well. It's supposed to be a little bit big on him, and it definitely is. It's not skin tight, but it is supposed to have a little bit of kind of a puffy nature to it because it adds to his overall girth again, because he's not a svelte ape. He's a little rotund, like I said, but I think he looks really good. I mean, they got proportions down really nicely when it comes to the soft goods, how they hang, how they fit, and of course just how they look, because these look a little bit more premium than you would expect them to be. There's a lot about this figure that seems like they went way overboard in many ways that they didn't have to, and that's definitely not a negative by any means. It's just one of those things that you get it in hand and you realize, well, yeah, they didn't have to do all of this, and yet they did. So I'm really pleased with all of this. All the stitching down the pants looks really nice and clean. I don't really have anything as far as frayed edges or any stitching that's out of place. He's even got, like the gloved feet kind of design that they've got here for the footwear that he has, and it's got a nice wash in it, so it brings out some of that sculpt as well. Like I mentioned, he's even got sculpted arms underneath, so there is some ape fur there. So it's not just like a bare arm or anything. It is an ape style arm. Obviously, we're going to see that used later on because we know they're going to be making more ape stuff. And then we've got this head sculpt, which, I mean, frankly, this thing looks like it jumped right out of the screen. I'm blown away by this head sculpt. Dr. ZAIUS looks never better in this instance. I'm absolutely floored by this one. It looks exactly like the movie in just about every respect. I think colors look fantastic. They're nice, and they're slightly yellowy orange, but they've got a hint of brown. They're very muted colors. You've got that really stern expression on his face, that very holier than thou expression, and just the weathering and the wash in the hair is tremendous. I think Mezco did an absolutely bang up job on this figure from head to toe. It is a pretty much perfect representation of Dr. ZAIUS in figure form, if I must say so. Now, as far as accessories goes, the good doctor here is pretty well stocked. It's not tons and tons of stuff, but he does have just about everything that I really want out of this particular figure. Again, it's Dr. ZAIUS. He doesn't need a bunch of stuff. There are a few signature things that I really like in this set, and then the rest is just sort of icing on the cake. So to start with, we do get one extra head sculpt, and this is really similar to the first one, except for the fact that here he is a little bit more angry. He's kind of got his mouth open. He's maybe orating a little bit, or he's just not happy, which of course fits the character as well. But very similar head sculpt. It just has a little bit more expression to it overall. Same great sculpt, and then paint applications as well. He does have 10 extra hands. He's got 5 sets of hands. So you've got one set that is kind of an open palm, lightly gripping hand. You've got a set of gesturing, 2-finger kind of pointing hands. There are a set of almost trigger finger hands, but not exactly, for holding smaller objects. And then you've got a set of hands that are kind of interesting, where the knuckles are a little bit more pronounced, where he's sort of pulling his first knuckle back almost, if that's the best way to describe it. And then you have a final set of actual standard gripping hands. And then of course he does also have fists on him in the box. Now beyond that, we do get a few other accessories. So we get the mini statue here. So we get the mini lawgiver statue. And this thing's pretty cool. I think the detail on it's really nice. There is a great kind of concrete stone patina to it almost. The sculpt on it is really nice. Details are nicely done. I'm not really sure what I plan to do with this, but it's something cool. It's very specific, and it's also kind of, you know, within the lore for the Planet of the Apes. We get the human doll, which is just creepy in its own right, and just how, you know, weird and unsettling this thing kind of looks, but it works really well in the context of the movie, and of course it really looks very similar. We get the paper airplane, and this is what you can use for some of those kind of gripping trigger finger style hands almost, so you get the paper airplane. And we also get 2 of these, and these are actually really cool. So these are some of the sacred scrolls. They're the same thing, but they actually work. So you can pull them out, and they actually have, you know, the paper on them. So the actual scroll itself is there, which is really cool. So this is the one, you know, it's kind of telling them to beware a man in terms of like their society, and that he's gonna bring, you know, their downfall and whatnot. So you get 2 of these, which I think is really awesome, just from a functionality standpoint, and then the overall, you know, usability of them, not to mention the fact, of course, that they work, is really cool. And then lastly, we get his cane, which is easily my favorite accessory. It's kind of it's kind of a boring accessory when you think about it, but this is his thing. So to have this is a must-have for sure, and it looks really good. It's pretty simple, but it gets the point across that this is something you see him have essentially all the time. So I'm really happy that that's concluded. And then last, but certainly not least, outside of his actual array of accessories, we do of course get a Mezco stand. So you get the big kind of circular stand. It's brown with the Planet of the Apes logo on it. So like I said, he isn't overly stacked with accessories, but I think he has it where it counts. There's a lot of interesting, weird accessories here. He's got a lot of hands, and he's got a killer extra head sculpt, but the cane is where it's at for me. And then those scrolls are really awesome, especially because they work. So overall, this is an almost flawless figure. I don't want to say perfect because that's, you know, the unattainable goal, but he's pretty close, especially for a Mezco figure. I really don't have any complaints with how any of the soft goods fit, the look, the feel. I mean, this is what you strive for when it comes to this kind of figure. I think they executed on him really nicely. He's got some pretty crazy hidden articulation. It's not all that necessary, but it's nice that he can move in the way he does move while having so much clothing on him. The sculpt on that head is tremendous. He's got those monkey arms even underneath the robes, and then not to mention the fact that he comes with a nice solid array of accessories that really round him out. I'm really, again, very surprised with how well executed this figure is. It could have been one of those where they just sort of, you know, did the bare minimum, and there you go, you've got Dr. ZAIUS, but really they went overboard on this figure in a number of ways, much to its benefit. So I'm really, really happy with this one. So that's going to do it for this look at the Mezco 112 Collective Planet of the Apes Dr. ZAIUS. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.